fine. Now I've heard stories of people mixing up the sear screw with the trigger screw, and the heads look very similar, but I've heard that there's a length difference. So I'm gonna measure this and kind of make a note of it, so just in case I don't get them mixed up. So this is the sear screw, and in inches we're looking at let's go to millimeters, a little easier. So we're looking at about a little less than 21 millimeters in length. And then the shaft itself, I think that's identical, but it's just a hint less than 3 millimeters. Okay, so I'm going to make a note of that just in case I get them mixed up. So about 20.9, 21 millimeters. Okay, so next I'm going to, let's see, I think, pull the hammer out. Okay, so I'm going to unscrew the hammer screw, and then I think the hammer will just drop straight out the bottom. So let's give that a shot. Okay, I've released the trigger screw. When I did so, I noticed there's some tension on the trigger. It just kind of popped it out. So before I went any further, I went to look at the exploded diagram to see what was causing that tension, because I want to kind of know what springs are coming into play. And it's the one of the two springs off of the body of the trigger. It's the I think trigger strut spring, maybe is what it's called. Which then I realized that I think earlier I was referring to this improperly. This is actually the sear and cylinder stop tension screw. So when I was saying it was getting caught up on the hand, it was getting caught up on the hand, and it's not the hand tension screw. This actually tensions the cylinder stop, and this tensions the sear. So because I think I was referring to that improperly earlier. So I pulled the screw out, and I'm going to set that over here. So I'm going to pull it straight down, and there's the trigger strut engaging it, and that comes out pretty easily. It comes out pulling this way. As you can see, looking at the trigger, there's actually a little tooth that hangs down here, so the strut's only going to come out in this direction, and of course has to go back in that same direction. But this looks really good. See some of the original bluing down here, and everything else is worn away, of course. And then the mainspring strut, that looks perfectly fine. I kind of wonder if the firing pin's bent a little bit, or if that was the original, because some of them do look kind of curved in the original. But anyway, okay, so we got that out. So now we've got the trigger spur here, and then I guess it'd be the spur spring, which you can see this shiny bit right down here is a spring that impinges on it apparently, and kind of gives that, lets that pop back down in place. Okay, so looks like we're down to the big part. Now, while there's one screw left on this side, you can see it looks like we've got two shafts protruding through here. And once again, looking at an exploded diagram, this shaft is actually protruding from the hand here. So that's, once we have this removed, the hand, supposedly this pin, which is part of it, is going to drop straight down and come out. So let's undo this screw, pull the trigger out, and see what happens. So I've removed the trigger spring, and I have to apologize. I keep mixing up the hand and the cylinder stop. The hand, of course, being what advances the cylinder, and the stop being what pops out down here to lock the cylinder in place. So as I remove the cylinder, or the the trigger screw, which is right here. Actually, I'm going to stop there, and you recall I'd read that people had mixed these up. So we'd measured the sear screw, and that was about 20.8 or 20.9 millimeters. So let's take a look. This is the trigger screw, which looks identical to me, but let's take a look at it. And wow, sure enough, it is just about 7/10 of a millimeter shorter. So we could really see how that could be mixed up. That was a hint less than 3 was the other one, and they're identical diameter, but they're so let's look at it in inches. So the trigger screw is about 0.8 inches in length, or 795. And the sear screw is 821. So just a slight difference. So something to keep in mind. And that's on this one. I don't know, of course, on other guns from different years. This one was made in 1900. Other years, I'm sure they might be different, but definitely something good to note. Okay, so we're going to pull the trigger out. Okay, and with that, okay, so you can see there's almost nothing left in there other than the cylinder stop. Okay, I'm going to set that down. So now we've got the trigger here with the hand, which is what protrudes out the back and advances the cylinder. Okay, we've got the hand spring there. Okay, and we've got, there's a screw that holds the two springs. There's the hand spring, and then the spring that impinges on the trigger strut here that puts tension on it. And that's down inside there somewhere. Okay, and here we're finally getting to the part I'm interested in, is the roller. And we can actually see that same matching witness mark on this roller, that square shiny patch. It looks like it matches the trigger spring, which impinges on it. So I'm gonna, well, first of all, I'm gonna take a note that the arm of the, or the this leg that sticks out from the arm, or the hand rather, it is, so this is the front of the gun. It's in front of the hand spring. Okay, so I'm going to remove it, and that's just sitting there in the shaft. Okay, so, oh, sorry, it went out of frame. So there it is there. Okay, and so I'm going to put it back in place just so I can remember. So that arm goes in front of the hand spring, and then that shaft just slips back in there. Let's see if I can do it. There we go. Okay, so that's how I'm going to want to put it back together. Okay, so I'm going to set the hand down. Okay, we can take a look at, so that spring looks good. We've got the trigger strut here, and can't really see in there, but if we look at the screw, we can see the screw is holding two different leaf springs in place. It's really hard to see, but there's 2 layers of thin metal that this screw is holding in place. Okay, so that's, if we need to replace those, we have to pop that out and then these 2 would come out. The strut looks like it's pinned in place and I can't even see where the pins are, so that's probably fun. And so looking at the roller, now the roller is held in place with a pin also, and I can see a little hole there. And I don't see where the pin goes through there. But it looks like, yeah, if I turn, so it's not frozen in place, it turns, but it definitely is flattened on that one side. So I'm going to take a look at it closer to see if that flattened side even clears the body here. But I don't see any witness marks on the body to show that the trigger body is rubbing. So, okay, I'll use my calipers and see how far out around that is. Okay, looking at the roller, it's about 2/1000ths out of round. And when I roll it, it does have quite a wobble to it. I don't know if we can make that out because we are talking just 2/1000ths. But when I rotate it, it's got a wobble, and then the part that's shiny and worn is puts it down almost flush with the body, so that there's almost no clearance at all. So I've gone ahead and ordered a roller. This roller is 3mm, by the way, across, so it's a little dinky piece. I've ordered a roller and a trigger spring. Now the trigger spring obviously is really easy to replace. The roller is going to be exciting. I could make out the pin on one side when I got the light just right, and I measured it, and the pin that this is resting on looks to be about a 1/16 is the diameter of the pin here. So I'll probably have to come up with, say, something smaller than that to drive this out, and then maybe use, I could not find any pins at any of the reproduction places or original parts. I couldn't find any roller pins. So what I'll do is I'll use part of a, well, my plan is use a shaft of a drill bit, which will be hardened steel and should be perfect, and I'd be able to get in exactly the right diameter. It is reasonably priced. I mean, you're talking a few bucks for a drill bit to waste on that. So I'll let you know how that goes. Hopefully the roller and the new trigger spring will be showing up in the mail today. So we shall see.